Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics, reaching you live from our global headquarters here in the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. Let's bring you up to speed with the big happenings in politics and in the polity. But before we get to the conversation around the polity, also what's playing out in the polity this time that has to do with the loss of lives in Niger State. The National Inland Waterways Authority, that's NIWA, it says it will set up a task force and community safety committee to enlighten and enforce rules along the waterways in Niger State following the boat mishap in Galsawa in Borgu local government area where 27 people have been confirmed dead. This was made known by the General Manager of Business Development of the agency, Mr. Olawale Adetola, while speaking on our program this morning, the Morning Brief.
Let me first express the authorities' condolence to the people of Niger about this recent boat mishap. So I believe what must have caused this accident is still under investigation. But from the look of things, I think the boat ran into a log or a hard object inside the water. That was what caused the accident. As of today, it's 27. That is the number the National Inland Waterways Authority has and the Niger State Emergency Management Agency. We are looking into setting up community safety committee so that apart from our sensitization and enlightenment, they will go into the nooks and crannies with our staff. And we are looking into setting up task force too for all these high prone areas of boat mishap. So in whatever way we can reduce boat mishap and the consequent fatalities, we are looking into it.
Well, away from the issues around the boat mishap, we also had a conversation last night on our sister political program, Politics Today, where former member of the House of Representatives, Dumumin Jibrin, has been seeking the patience of Nigeria for an understanding with the administration of Bola Tinubu as he makes a case for the leadership of the country.
Yes, there are challenges. But again, believe me, they're working. Now, when you talk about the security situation, there's no government. It doesn't even make sense for you to say a government will sit down and fold its arms while its citizens are being shot and the rest, or being killed by bandits and the rest. So much is going on. But what I said to you is that I did not say nobody should criticize the president. But the pattern it has taken is that it is being presented as if this man has always been and is the problem of Nigeria. If you say, oh, okay, subsidy was removed, I've argued this on this channel. A lot of presidential candidates actually believe that, but I also said that it appears that we underestimated the impact of the removal of the subsidy. You are talking about, yes, difficulties. Yeah, sometimes there will be difficulties, then ease comes. Singular action of saying we've met our revenue target and we are no longer borrowing from domestic market. Believe me, even a chairman, when I was chairman finance all the way to appropriations, this is what we kept hammering, how government will exit domestic market. You know, for someone who doesn't know, will not understand the consequences. That is what you call the crowding out effect. And our economy has suffered so much from the crowding out effect. Because what happens was that year after year, government goes to domestic market, mop up the money, and the banks have no money to lend to real sector. So, but for people who understand the issues, they know that a very solid foundation is being built.
Let's also take you to the presidency, where Bola Tinubu, our president, is urging governors to collaborate with the federal government in revisiting the establishment of state police as an additional security measure to strengthen safety across the country. He made a call while receiving 6 governors from the Northeast, led by the governor of Borno State, Professor Babagana Zulum. The president assured the delegation that his administration remains committed to working closely with the subnational government to drive economic development in their areas.
The short run of 2 years, we can beat our chest. The economy has turned around. The conflict is going down, progress has been made, and we should continue to collaborate. And that has provoked my thinking about, state police. Again, politics apart, we can discuss with the National Assembly leadership to really, look at critical path to that again, and see how we can eliminate those political alliances out of a state police that will be indigenous to the community and provide the additional safety buffer and effectiveness in the area.
All right, that's President Bola Tinubu speaking to Northeast governors led by Professor Babagana Zulum, who also made a presentation at that particular meeting. So the issue around state police is back in the front burner because it was a big issue at some point. In fact, I think it's part of the constitution amendment that is being worked on right now by the National Assembly. So let's bring in the man who understands how policing works. Former Deputy Inspector General of Police, Abutu Yaro, joins us from our Abuja studio. DIG, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me. Good day.
All right, let's begin with some of the remarks you've heard so far as the issue of state police is concerned. But before we get to some of the nitty-gritty, where I would like to start from is your assessment of the current architecture of policing in Nigeria. If you were to look back from your days in the force and now, what are the highlights for you? Good, bad, and ugly.
Thank you. The perspective through which I can interpret the scenario is that it's obvious that policing gaps exist within the context of the present architecture. It is equally a matter of common knowledge too, that there is a kind of a population implosion in the country with respect to I want to take it in this way. Obviously, there's a kind of policing gap, and the presidential initiative, as espoused by Mr. President, captures the needs of the moment, in my view. And I can tell you, arising from this kind of a new hope agendaed template of policing, the existing gaps are likely to be affected, and the challenges, particularly at the local levels, the ungoverned spaces, and the extreme interior, will be properly handled if the proposal of state policing is given operational and tactical effect. Our size, the size of our country, the present structure we are maintaining, our population, and other external threats to our national security has made it very, very imperative for states to have some modicum of organized police structures. Police templates can come in any format. It can be in form of a better organized vigilante system operated with modern equipment, operated or enabled with modern legislation, supervised by veterans of security services, coordinated to eradicate local emergencies, and of course, supporting the national police system will give a higher value to our security delivery system in the country. And I so subscribe to this presidential initiative. And I believe that this policy shift is the panacea to covering the security gaps that is ravaging the country in many respects.
You know, I needed you to give that outlook and that overview as far as I think we've spoken extensively, I mean, as Nigerians, as citizens of our country, about the need for state policing. But let's begin with basic housekeeping within the police force itself. What is going on at the moment? We've heard complaints about welfare, we've heard complaints about vehicles and equipment and all of that. But we've also seen and heard situations where state governors will make donations of vehicles to police divisions, police HQs within their state, and then the commissioners of police divert it for personal use. I mean, these are verifiable things that happen. It's just that nobody follows up. It is when perhaps they leave office and begin to look for them, arrest them, and retrieve these vehicles. So the police itself, before that policy direction in terms of amendment of the law is concerned, what does the police have to do to reassure that more investment that are coming in apparently is going to be worth the while and is not going to go down the drain yet again, with respect to the ones who are doing the work?
I want to... Hello?
Go ahead, DIG, please.
Yeah, I want to remind us in this way. The policing structure we have, or the police entity, does not exist on its own. Police has oversight authorities. And in that respect, some of the observed lapses in terms of utilization of resources and input you've talked about, in a sane climate, those kind of issues can be tackled by ensuring that the appropriate oversight authorities to the police intensify their responsibility. And the police does not exist in isolation. If persons or entities or governors or whoever donate equipment, donate money, it must have a template of ensuring or having an oversight interest in the utilization, so that some of the malfeasance you mentioned may be reduced or may be avoided. But the point has to be made clearer. Donating equipment alone or palliative monitoring interactions does not translate to police efficiencies. There are many fundamental issues that are germane to giving effect to policing in our country. For example, the police that undertakes the daily routine must be kept somewhere near he can deliver his mandate. He must be put in a state of a motivated mindset. He must have a stability of future. That is to say, I have come to sign on as an entry point as a police officer today. 35 years when I exist, these are the standard industry opportunities that will accrue after putting certain number of years, particularly after 35 years. When your national police is seeing his senior colleague or his uncle who left the service 3 years ago, standing at the gate of National Assembly, complaining bitterly, demonstrating about his pension, his gratuity, and his debilitated lifestyle, that alone has a consequential impact on police efficiency. It tends to create a mindset that do not generate or instigate wider commitment to providing safety and security in the country. Palliative innovations like giving them vehicles, giving them money to meet certain needs, etc., does not solve the issue we are talking about. It goes bigger than that. For example, most of the police homes where they sleep in Lagos area where you are there, they have been completely demolished. Have you taken time to ask, why are they demolished? Where are the policemen? Go to Falomo Barracks. North is bare there. And these are the barracks bequeathed to us by the colonial authority. I've given you a very good example. Most of the policemen in Lagos I'm speaking today, they transit all the way from Ogun to come and do work. Who won't go through this system? And at the end of the day, will give his best. These are issues that are wider than the concept of certain vehicles were given, certain money were given, and you have not seen the utilitarian impact of it. There are many fundamentals that we have left undone, and that is making our country's security system via the police channel to dissipate.
Okay.
And the challenges are increasing on the other side. So it is a food for thought for all of us to do deeper soul searching. Have we been very fair in organizing our police system for maximum efficiency as a country? Have we been very fair in providing the necessities of policing our country? Have we been very fair too in planning ahead that the kind of police we want in the next 25 years to be so the gamut of my explanation is that there are many fundamentals that are in disarray, and these fundamentals are germane to effective policing of a very big and populous country like our own. And we need to think about it and do something about that very, very quickly.
All right, I'm happy you've highlighted these things and some of the things that has to be done. But there's another part. I think every person who loves the country agrees to a large extent that, you know, we need to decentralize some of the things we've centralized, including the Nigerian police or the security architecture in itself, that's apart from the military. But the question again is, the future is just in front of us, which is very likely that we may have a state police. The subject of abuse of the police apparatus at the subnational level. And I always like to draw inference from what the subnational governors are already handling. Local governments and state assembly. They've made a mess of these two. Arms and tiers of government. The state governments have made a mess, most of them, of the local government administration. The legislature in their state is literally their appendages. And now, if we put police in their hands, there are fears that there will be abuse. Is there anything you would recommend as a DIG that can help mitigate this? Because in the future, we must be truthful to ourselves that it's very likely.
Thank you. Certainly, the proposed state police, as espoused by Mr. President, is going to be a byproduct of legislative innovations. And if you take time to reflect on the president's speech yesterday with respect to state policing, he specifically mentioned that he's going to have an engagement with the National Assembly. Obviously, that is in terms of legislation. That is in terms of regulations. If perhaps the Constitution provides for magistrate court to exist, state high court to exist, federal high court to exist, federal court of appeal to exist, and at the same time, there are distinct schedules allocated to these units in the judicial services. So in my view, same thing applies in the police service reform that could come out through a concise legislation, in the sense that we are going to still have federal police, of course, which is the national police, the Nigerian police as we have it. Certainly state police by legislation, which I believe is being crafted or will be crafted. There will be a schedule of issues and situations that they can handle. There will be a schedule too of how they will have interoperability in the field. At what point do they work for federal police that operates in their state to reinforce them or to take over? All those dynamics and provisions will be there. And as such, the fear of excessive politicization by subnational in the way and manner you said it may not necessarily be so. But the issue is this: no matter how we look at it, we cannot be afraid of our own shadow and avoid taking decision. Certainly, there's no policy shift anywhere in the world that may not have some demerits or they may not have some unforeseen consequences. But the bottom line of it is that our vision should be laid out very clear. The legislation should be very, very clear. And even if unforeseen contingencies arises in the course of time and execution, all legislation are not really cast in gold or in stone. They are subject to further amendment. But the important thing is that we must have an experimental innovation to move our country forward in terms of security planning, in terms of policing strategy, and in terms of overall national development. And I think what the president has put across to us as a country is the best way to do, and is the best thing to be passionate about for now. The certain aspect of subnational government, and of course even local government authorities making some inferences, they are likely to happen, but we are likely to have capacity too to address some of these further unforeseen expectations by amendment as we go ahead. But time is of essence, and they need to safeguard our country using any means possible. It's apt in my thinking.
Yeah, we can even talk about the issue of welfare. In fact, I want you to join the two issues together for us as we begin to wind down. Some states are struggling to pay minimum wage. You now give them police in addition that is very expensive to run. If you want to really run a proper policing system where we can graduate to the point of having body cam and all of the things that, you know, training, good pay. So talk to us about funding challenges at the subnational level. But in addition to that, more critical for me is, from your experience in service and now with the reality on ground, how much do you think the least officer in the Nigerian police force should be paid?
Thank you very much. Within the context of the present realities, my thinking posits that 250,000 naira minimum for entry-level policemen is ideal. Then beside that, policing at subnational level through the apparatus of state police does not necessarily canvass for complicated expenditure per se. For example, if you organize state vigilante in a very functional way, that is still state policing. If you organize local communities in a way that they can repel attacks, that is local policing. It doesn't require extraordinary capital outlay. If you organize natives to have in an integrated format of giving information on cash and cash basis, give them stipends to forward the information to the central authority in the state or in the local government, that is still effective policing. So we shouldn't actually have this fear that the state policing initiative is going to be a kind of elaborate thing. Policing can be formatted at any level to meet some circumstances. And we are talking about arranging police in layers. One of the layers could be local government police, could be state government police, and the national police. When these layers exist, maybe at a minimum cost, but the important thing is that they have a kind of integrated approach to interactions, and there's a kind of organized information flow and a preventive and reactive mechanisms, both at the immediate level and at the tertiary level. That's the most important thing. So in my mind, finance can always be a hindrance, but it depends on the scale at which we format what we are talking about.
Okay.
At whichever scale
Yeah,
is formatted, it's still policing.
Jai, I must thank you so much. I think you should be in the room where these things are being said, the conversations. Persons like you should be in those rooms so that you bring in your input as a major stakeholder who has served, so that we have a formidable policing force, whether it's at a local or subnational level. Thank you, sir. DIG, former DIG Abutu Yaro joining us from Abuja Studios. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Former AIG Abutu Yaro.
Okay, AIG, my apologies.
AIG,
right.
Thank you very much.
All
Thank
right.
you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Absolutely. That's it on the program. Thank you for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzonga. You've been served on Lunchtime Politics. Bye-bye.